The nurse leaned close to me and whispered, "If you love your mother, don't sign anything they give you today. They're waiting for her to die." I never imagined that the most dangerous place in my life would be a luxury retirement community with palm trees, fountains, and smiling staff who called my mother sweetheart. From the outside, Silver Willow Estates looked like a resort for the wealthy elderly. White buildings, manicured lawns, security gates, and a promise printed on glossy brochures: dignity, care, peace of mind. That brochure is what convinced me to move my mother there. My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 38, a systems analyst living in Phoenix, Arizona. My mother, Eleanor Carter, was a retired school librarian, widowed for 10 years, fiercely independent and stubborn in the way only intelligent women can be. When she slipped in her kitchen and fractured her hip, doctors said she'd recover, but not alone. She needs supervision, they told me, at least temporarily. I toured 5 facilities. Silver Willow was the best by far. Private rooms, medical staff on site, gourmet meals, weekly family updates. The director, a man named Gregory Hale, shook my hand and looked me straight in the eye. "We treat residents like family," he said. I believed him. For the first 2 months, everything was perfect. My mother called me every evening, complained about bland soup, praised one nurse named Carla, told me she was walking again with a cane. I relaxed. For the first time since my father died, I slept without guilt. Then, the calls slowed. At first, I blamed recovery fatigue. Then, excuses started appearing. "She's resting. She is in therapy. She didn't feel up to calling today." When I visited, Mom seemed different. Quieter, hesitant. She'd look at the door before answering questions, lower her voice when she spoke. One day, when I asked her if she was happy there, she squeezed my hand and whispered, "Don't make trouble." That was the moment my stomach dropped. I asked Gregory if anything was wrong. He smiled, always smiling. "Adjustment period," he said. "Totally normal. Elderly patients can become anxious." But my mother had never been anxious. Then came the paperwork. A woman from administration, Melissa, called me in for a routine review. She slid documents across the table: medical consent updates, billing adjustments, and one document that made my heart stop: durable power of attorney, medical and financial. "Why would you need this?" I asked. Melissa didn't hesitate. "In case of cognitive decline, it allows us to act quickly if there's an emergency." I didn't sign. That night, my mother cried in my arms. Actual sobbing, silent, shaking. "They keep telling me I forget things. They say I agreed to things I don't remember." The next morning, I demanded her full medical file. That's when they became hostile. Gregory's smile vanished. "You're disrupting care," he said. "If you don't trust our professionals, maybe this isn't the right place." A threat, soft but unmistakable. I hired an independent geriatric specialist. Silver Willow resisted, delayed, lost paperwork. But eventually, the doctor examined my mother. Diagnosis: no dementia, no cognitive decline, mild post-surgery confusion, normal and temporary. Someone was lying. A week later, my mother was suddenly too ill for visitors. That night, my phone rang at 11:47 p.m. It was Carla, the nurse my mother trusted. She was whispering. "They moved your mom to the East Wing," she said. "No cameras there. They're pushing residents to sign over authority. Families who resist get frozen out." My blood ran cold. "And Daniel," she added, "they already did this to 3 others." The next day, I contacted a lawyer specializing in elder exploitation. What she told me was worse than anything I imagined. Luxury care facilities weren't just about care anymore. They were asset funnels. Target wealthy or moderately wealthy seniors, isolate them, convince them they're declining, gain legal authority, drain accounts slowly, legally, invisibly. No bruises, no crime scenes, just signatures. We planned quietly. Hidden cameras, phone recordings, financial audits. Within 2 weeks, we had proof. Forged evaluations, altered consent forms, internal emails discussing expected mortality timelines. One email from Gregory chilled me to the bone. "Carter may last another 6 to 8 months. Son is a complication. Increase pressure." I wanted to burn the place down. Instead, we waited. At the annual Family Appreciation Dinner, with donors, city officials, and investors present, Gregory took the stage. That's when I stood up. I didn't shout, I didn't threaten. I played the recordings. The room went silent. Police were already waiting outside. As they led Gregory away in handcuffs, my mother looked at me and said, "I knew you'd come."
Gregory Hale didn't scream when the police put handcuffs on him. He didn't resist. He just looked at me, cold, calculating, and smiled one last time, like a man already planning his next move. That smile scared me more than anger ever could. Silver Willow Estates went into lockdown within minutes. Guests were escorted out, phones buzzed everywhere, news vans lined up outside the gates before sunset. What had been marketed as a peaceful retirement paradise became a crime scene overnight. My mother was moved to a hospital that same evening under state protection. As they wheeled her out, she clutched my hand tightly, afraid someone would stop us. "They won't take me back there, will they?" she asked. "Never," I promised. But the truth was, this nightmare was only beginning. The district attorney called me the next morning. "What you exposed is bigger than one facility," she said. "Silver Willow is just one branch." That's when I learned the real scope of it. Gregory wasn't just a director, he was a regional operator. Silver Willow was part of a private network of high-end senior care communities spread across 4 states: Arizona, Nevada, California, and Florida. Different names, same system, same pattern. Target residents with assets between $500,000 and $3 million. No children nearby. Recently widowed. Physically injured but mentally alert. They called them soft holds. Internal documents revealed weekly meetings where staff discussed residents not as people, but as timelines. Walker, 12 to 18 months. Nguyen, family resistance high, slow approach. Carter, isolate son. Reading those files felt like reading autopsy reports written before people were dead. The more investigators dug, the uglier it became. Nurses were pressured to exaggerate symptoms. On-site doctors were paid bonuses for diagnosing early cognitive decline. Social workers were trained to subtly gaslight residents, repeat phrases like, "You already agreed to that," or "You don't remember," until doubt took root. And once doubt settled in, signatures followed. My mother wasn't their first attempt. She was just the one who had a son who refused to back down. But the system fought back. 3 days after the arrests, Silver Willow's legal team filed an emergency injunction claiming I had emotionally manipulated my mother and coerced testimony. They accused me of elder abuse. I was stunned. My lawyer wasn't. She said, "This is standard. They flip the narrative. If they discredit you, everything collapses." That night, my mother was interviewed alone by a court-appointed evaluator. I wasn't allowed in the room. I waited in the hallway, heart pounding, thinking about all the times she doubted herself, all the nights she whispered in fear. What if they broke her again? After an hour, the evaluator came out. "She's sharp," the woman said. "Emotionally shaken, but mentally intact. She knows exactly what happened to her." I nearly collapsed with relief. Then came the families. Once the story hit national news, my phone exploded. Sons, daughters, nieces, all asking the same question. Was your parent at Silver Willow? Some had lost everything. One man from Nevada told me his father had signed away a ranch he'd owned for 50 years. A woman from Florida said her aunt died believing she was confused, ashamed of her own mind. Another family admitted they'd suspected something, but trusted the professionals. The guilt in their voices was unbearable. A class action investigation formed within weeks. Federal agencies stepped in. The numbers were staggering. Over $180 million redirected through trusts, shell charities, and care management fees. Not stolen, transferred, legal, on paper. My mother testified before a grand jury. She shook the entire time, but her voice never wavered. She said, "They treated me like a child, and then like a bank account." Gregory Hale was offered a plea deal. He refused. He believed he'd outsmart the system. The trial lasted 4 months. I sat behind my mother every day, watching as former nurses testified through tears, admitting what they'd been told to do. Emails were read aloud, audio recordings played. One recording featured Gregory himself saying, "They don't need dignity, they need management." The jury didn't take long. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing day was quiet. No press theatrics, just a judge reading numbers that finally sounded heavy enough. 27 years in federal prison, asset forfeiture, permanent ban from healthcare administration. Gregory's smile was gone, but the victory felt hollow in some ways. Money returned couldn't undo the damage. Some residents had died believing they were losing their minds. Some families would never forgive themselves. As for my mother, she changed. She recovered physically, but something inside her shifted. She was more cautious now, quieter. She asked for permission for things she never used to. One evening, months later, she looked at me and said softly, "I hate that I doubted myself." I sat beside her. "They trained you to. That wasn't weakness. That was survival." She nodded, but I could tell the scar would remain. We moved her into a small house near mine. No facilities, no administrators, just neighbors who waved and a garden she tended every morning. Sometimes she still wakes up afraid she signed something she doesn't remember. And every time, I remind her, "You're safe, and you're believed."
People thought Gregory Hale's conviction was the end of it. They were wrong. 3 months after the sentencing, when the headlines faded and Silver Willow Estates became just another scandal people half remembered, I received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typed, no signature. "You stopped one man, not the machine." At the bottom, a symbol, 3 overlapping circles, the same symbol I later found buried in the financial records of 2 other luxury care networks operating under different names. That's when I understood something terrifying. Gregory Hale hadn't created the system. He'd just managed a piece of it. I brought the letter to the federal investigator assigned to our case. She didn't look surprised. "We were hoping you'd get something like this," she said. That's how I learned about Project Silver Veil, a quiet, multi-year federal operation targeting elder financial exploitation across the United States. Care facilities, private guardianships, estate planning firms, even hospitals. All legal on the surface, all predatory underneath. And suddenly, I was no longer just a victim's son. I was a witness. They asked if I'd help. Not publicly, not loudly, but methodically. Over the next year, my life changed completely. I took a leave from work. I traveled, Nevada, Florida, California, meeting families who told the same story in different accents, parents who stopped trusting themselves, children who blamed themselves, lawyers who said, "Nothing we can do." We documented everything, patterns, language, techniques. They isolated seniors. They undermined confidence. They rushed signatures during moments of fear. They always framed control as help. The system thrived on one thing: silence. So we broke it. A federal report was released, quietly at first, then hearings, then legislation. States began tightening guardianship laws, mandatory third-party evaluations, recorded consent, cooling-off periods for asset transfers involving seniors. Facilities pushed back, hard. Lobbyists swarmed Capitol Hill. Ads appeared warning that regulation would hurt elder care. That's when my mother did something I'll never forget. She asked to testify. She was terrified. Her hands shook as she adjusted the microphone. She looked small in that massive room filled with suits and power. But when she spoke, the room went silent. "They didn't steal my money," she said. "They stole my confidence. They made me doubt my own mind. And once you take that from someone, everything else is easy." One senator wiped his eyes. The bill passed. It wasn't perfect, but it mattered. Silver Willow's parent corporation dissolved. Assets were seized. Victims were compensated, partially. Justice, slow and imperfect, moved forward. And Gregory Hale? He wrote me a letter from prison. "I don't understand why you couldn't just walk away richer," he wrote. "You could have taken a settlement, lived comfortably. Instead, you chose war." I never replied. Because here's the truth he never understood. This was never about money. It was about my mother sitting in her room wondering if she was losing her mind. It was about dignity. Years later, my mother's hair is fully white now. She walks slowly, but confidently. Every morning she waters her garden and greets neighbors by name. She keeps a small notebook in her pocket, not because she needs it, but because she chooses it. "I write things," she once told me, smiling, "so no one can ever tell me I forgot."
Sometimes we sit on the porch at sunset, the sky turning orange and purple, and she asks me the same question. Did I do the right thing? Every time I give her the same answer. You saved people you'll never meet. She nods, satisfied. As for me, I now work full-time with a nonprofit focused on elder protection. Quiet work, paperwork, testimony, policy. Not heroic, not dramatic, but necessary. People still ask how something like Silver Willow could happen. I tell them this: evil doesn't always come with violence. Sometimes it comes with patience, with polite smiles, with forms that say, for your own good. And the most dangerous lie of all, trust us, we know better. Because when a society stops listening to its elders, it doesn't just lose wisdom, it loses its soul. And I will spend the rest of my life making sure that never happens again.